Hello, everybody. My name is Michael DeBar. I'm a Chief Guitar Officer. You don't believe me? You don't believe me?
Always saying guitars are playing a part of who we are. Got a cool job, but there's so much more to the chairmen and women of the pedal board. You're a CGO, Chief Guitar Officer.
The show where success meets guitar.
Welcome to Chief Guitar Officer. I'm Scott Haidt.
And I'm Judd Silver. Scott, what does rock and roll mean to you?
Oh man, it's so many things. It's a feeling, an emotion, a spirit.
Yeah, it's not only really even just about music. It's not this intellectual thing that you have to give a lot of thought to. You could go through your entire life, have all these experiences, meet all kinds of different people, learn about all kinds of different things, and continually maintain a rock and roll attitude. Our guest today, through his acting, through his music, through his gig as a Sirius XM radio DJ, is a true rock and roll survivor. Scott, tell us who it is.
We are really excited to welcome the legendary Michael DeBar. And guess what? He's a CGO.
Musician and actor, Sirius XM radio host extraordinaire, 20th century boy, and 21st century Renaissance man. CGO, Michael DeBar, welcome to Chief Guitar Officer.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. You know, I was a stripper for many years.
I didn't see that on Wikipedia.
Well, there are different books you can find, you know.
Where are you right now?
Where am I? I'm in my house, in my studio, right here, where where the king hovers over my shoulder.
Nice.
Which is the title of my new album.
Well, speaking of new albums, October 11th, we know It's Only Rock and Roll is coming out. How did that come together?
Well, it certainly struck me that the songs that I loved, you know, as in the early 70s before you were born, I thought, wow, you know, what if... Because the whole notion of rock and roll is dead and everything is ludicrous. Right. It's like saying, you know, Napoleon didn't exist or something. I mean, it is historic. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I think people were just trying to, you know, underscore the fact that music was now machines. It's not. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have a kidney. It's a machine. So that music in those days was so fun of double entendre, you know, and growing up on a sexual level and understanding it and having fun with it. You know, sex always seems to be hidden, especially in Victoriana England. And I thought, well, you know, I really want to show the naivete and the beauty of sexuality. And that's going intellectually into it. Rock and roll, 3-chord music, you know, great lyric, fun lyric, interesting lyric. Even Dylan was writing songs that really didn't mean anything in particular, but meant everything in general. Even he says that.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
You know?
That's right.
So therefore, I thought, well, look, then I can do the sweet. You know,
right.
And it seemed obvious that the innocence and naivete of rock and roll at that time wasn't that. It was very glamorous. Sexuality was rife. And the other thing, just purely because I think those songs, you know, it took a long time to pick those 12 songs. It wasn't as if, that's good. You know, they all have a meaning. There's a whole chapter in the book of rock and roll. And I'm just so glad that people are digging it. You know, it's great. And singing it, and the band I had, guitar, bass, drum, singer, you know, I don't need a tambourine. I certainly don't need a synthesizer. I need what Elvis had. I need what Bill Haley had. What Muddy Waters had. You know, it seemed absurd for me to do something that was technological when rock and roll, you know, is a wonderful world that happens to belong to anything below your waist.
Were you always thinking about like wanting to do these songs through the years, or you just decided one day you had to go back and rediscover them? And
yeah, the latter. Because what happened to me was, I was making records and writing a lot of people's songs for people and lyrics and so on and so forth. I was absolutely, when Stevie called me and said, let's do this radio show, then I said, well, I'd love to do that. And what happened was I just lost myself in other people's music, which I thought was pretty good, given the fact that you have to be egoic, in a sense, in rock and roll. You have to believe in yourself. And I thought, it'd be great to just, play songs that other people would enjoy that I like, And then I did some records for Stevie, and I wrote some stuff for other people and so on and so forth. And then I thought, wait a minute. I want to go out there, guitar, bass, drums with a bunch of great guys. And I know terrific musicians in LA that care about that era, glam rock. We were about as glamorous, by the way, as Rats in the Gutter.
The real glamour, the real
Rats with eyeliner, which is clearly, my autobiography. So I wanted to go back to the songs, the simplicity of it and the brilliance of it. Mike Chapman. Mike Chapman is the Phil Spector of rock and roll. And this guy I love. He's one of my dearest friends, and I called him and I said, what do you think? And, I chose those songs, and here we are, man. It's number one everywhere on these indie record stations.
Oh, yeah. Where the singles are fantastic.
It's
absolutely.
Crazy, Love is the Drug, because nobody's, what's so interesting? You can tell a band that's nervous and stuff by the pace of it and the tension of it. It's got to get this take. It's got to be great. That never happened with us. We literally did that record in 20 minutes, I swear.
So sounds awesome.
It has to be loud.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot listen to rock and roll again. What did he just say? It's ridiculous. You have to play music loud, at that level. And in a way, it was sort of on a Dracula level. It's left me with this great sort of juvenile adolescence view of rock and roll, rather than the philosophical side of rock and roll. And I really have to be clever with this. I don't have to be clever.
Right.
There's no cleverness below the belt, and you can quote me on this. It's a sheer joy.
Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
It. It's only rock and roll. It's not trying to find something on the moon. Who wants to go to the moon?
Right.
Why are we wasting money on looking at other planets? Let's try and make this one work. And I believe music will bring people together, and certainly this has.
Absolutely.
Man, the social media that I get, and I'm very interested in social media. I am. I want to reach people, not for my own self, but for answer questions that people ask me. What? How should I do this? What should I do? I'm gay. How do I deal with that? I get amazing stuff, because they know I tell the truth. They know Miss Pamela and that whole thing and what we've been through, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to respond to questions that I can't answer.
Well, through this illustrious career, and I think illustrious might be a very small word for what we're talking about here, storytelling ultimately, right? Like all these roles you've had. As an actor, in MacGyver and on Seinfeld and Sugartown, these things are
great movie.
And of course the music, Silverhead, Detective, Checkered Past, The Power Station, 1985, your first gig with the band, going out on stage in front of 2 billion people. Whose idea was that?
God's.
The same person that told you to sing Fox on the Run in the original key, right?
Exactly. No, it was so weird. It's a fabulous story. I'm in Miami with Don Johnson, and we're doing a movie, not doing Miami Voice. And I got a call from the guy in New York saying, "Are you free?" And Obsession was number one all over the world, that I'd written with Holly, and that was really happening. And he said there's a band that really needs a singer, for a tour that they've booked, and their singer's dropped out. I said, "Who? What? What are you talking about?" "We can't tell you. But what we can do is give you first-class ticket and a white limousine waiting in New York for you." And I said, Sounds good.
Perfect.
Sounds great. So I got in there and I went to the address and they took me upstairs and there was a very nervous John Taylor and a very stoic Tony Thompson.
Okay.
And the manager, agent guy, and I went, oh, Jesus, this is, because I knew about the past, I knew it was going to happen, but they were desperate. I mean, they had a few days, and obviously it was a 6-month tour, and millions of dollars were involved, and I said, yeah, it sounds good. He said, well, tonight we've got a ticket for you to go to London and talk to Andy. And so that night I flew to London and got picked up in this massive limousine, and it's all very Duran Duran.
Yeah.
And then I show up at the studio. I wait 8 hours. I wait 8 fucking hours for Andy to show up and give me, but he does show up. Very small fellow with a big bodyguard. So then I go in and go, get it on. Bang a gong, get it on. And it was I was more Muddy Waters than Robert Palmer. I loved Robert Palmer.
Yeah, of course.
Palmer was one of the greatest, but he's down here. He's like, he's down there. And it's completely different. So I'm a rock and roll singer. He's an R&B singer. It's a big difference, as you guys know.
Yeah, Sneak and Sally Through the Alley. It's a whole different thing. Yep.
Whole different thing. Sam Cooke, brilliant. I knew him for years. I was friends with him for years. So I go back to LA. We go into rehearse. I wake up at the first rehearsal at 8 a.m. My manager, Danny Goldberg, says, you're out. Robert's back. There's me 3 or 4 days back to planes, and And Andy, after we did the thing with Andy, and he says, "Yeah, that sounds good," and then he goes, "Let's go shopping." I said, "What are we doing?" And he said, "Clothes." I said, "I'm in." And we went and bought lots of clothes, and I had another suitcase with me. It's a farce. It's a movie.
Wow. It's a comedy, yeah.
It's a comedy. So I wake up in this beautiful hotel. There's yellow daffodils everywhere, And my manager goes and says, he's back. I said, excuse me? He says, Robert Palmer's back. He wants to do this.
Oh, my God.
And I'm not kidding, right? So I go, can I keep the clothes? He said, I don't know about the fucking clothes, And I go, okay, man, well, just get me a ticket and I'll go back and hang out with DJ and have some fun, And then an hour went by and Robert, backed off again. And
wow.
So then I go to the rehearsal. 3 days, 32 songs. 3 days, 32. No teleprompters, right? Yeah. This was way back in prehistoric rock and roll era. There was none.
Yeah.
There was none.
Yeah.
So can you imagine? So then, first gig in New York, packed with screaming girls. I'm in the middle. I come on stage, the band's there, we started to play, I'd learnt the songs as best I could, and the audience just parted like this. John's here, and Andy's here. And I was in the middle of the Red Sea. I looked out into an expanse of nothingness.
Wow.
Both sides of the studio they're loving Duran. And I'm going, so one's ego. But then I had to deal with that. And that was really fascinating because, I've been sober a long time and I thought, I know how to deal with this. What is. I will deal with what is, not what I want it to be, And we did the show, and the next show, it was called Live Aid. And it's the biggest show of all time, Amazing. And I'd only sung the song live once. Get it on and all of that bollocks. And,
incredible story. Incredible. How did the Sirius XM gig come about?
Oh, Stevie, me and Jonesy had that band Checkered Past.
Yep.
Jonesy and I had this band with Clem and Nigel Harrison and
Clem Burke, yeah.
Dales and Clem, yeah. And it was a fantastic gig. I really enjoyed working with those guys. It was short-lived, dreadful producer, stupid album. They brought in other guitar players. Can you imagine bringing other guitar players and you've got Steve Jones?
Steve Jones.
So that should be illegal.
Right, it's illegal. Exactly right. So they wanted some, just one of those 80s rock band things, and Jonesy didn't even know what that was. he had no interest in any of that, and there was drugs, and I was sober, and I was dealing with that, and because I love him more than anything, he's the greatest guy and beloved with my son and amazing. And it worked live. Live, we were great. We just do Iggy songs, or whatever. And but the album did not do what I thought it. Well, actually, what I knew would happen, which was this isn't real. But working with Steve Jones is one of the highlights of my life for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Through all these things, there's always a bit of a thread in your career and the things you do. In the Power Station days, you launched Rock Against Drugs, but you are filled with positivity and uplifting spirit. So tell us something that you feel really proud about.
It's not really a vibe of pride, particularly. It's necessary. I mean, I've somehow discovered that drugs were demonic, and it wasn't just always strung out, he'll be okay, that it was destroying and remains so to this day. And I came out with Rock Against Drugs because I had a little bit of vibes because of the Power Station. And MTV picked up on it, and it was hilarious. I've got so many stories about that. But John Bon Jovi, who was the sweetest guy, it's great. But Ozzy came in loaded.
Wow.
I mean, if that isn't rock and roll, I don't know what is. If you come in and a Rock Against Drugs come in loaded on drugs, this to me is a surrealistic poem, and I laughed for about 3 days.
The inmates have taken over the asylum, right?
Yeah, and that is a great title for an album right there. The Lunatics, but I mean, I've just tried to do what's right, and maintain a spectacular body, because I'd be in the gym. I live in a gym. Rock Against Drugs, so I thought, was something very important. That was definitely very cool. I enjoyed doing that a lot because I had a little bit of power,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Going back, what do you place your earliest memory on the impact that the guitar had on you?
Elvis,
of course.
And Elvis.
Yeah. Enough said. Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe that, And what happened was I was in these boarding schools. My father was an aristocratic lunatic in jail, and my mother was also, not right in the head, and she was in a thing. So I was looked after by people I didn't even know for years. And then when I was 8 years old, I went to boarding school, and boarding school was very important to me because I really did study. I never went home in the vacation periods. I stayed in these Gothic big schools, and I read every book I could get my hands on, from Kerouac to I don't know, I mean, it was hipness, but I was fascinated by the Roman philosophers, in those early years of the world, and I became obsessed with Muddy Waters. Who I think is a philosophical person, really sort of, the truth about rock and roll is that it did come from, the South, and it came from being slaves, and it's disgusting, and it was blues, you bet they got the fucking blues, and I was obsessed with that because I was on the alternate thing, being an aristocrat, and I was in this public school, and now I'm reading about, Willie Dixon's life.
Yeah, interesting. So that juxtaposition of that highbrow, lowbrow kind of thing that you understood is really interesting.
Juxtaposition is exactly the word described, because I'm thinking, how could this possibly happen in a new land that is building itself? How could it be so awful, to turn against, and steal people from their country and all of that? I was going crazy, and then it lightened up a bit when I was 16. I left the school. I should have left at 18, but I was so sick of staying in these sort of dreadful, big. It was like Edgar Allan Poe's school. It was dreadful. I want to be a rock and roll star. I want to be an actor. I want to be Elvis. I want to be this and that. And Elvis came into my life after the blues, which is very important to know. Because the King was one thing, but the blues is another. I just saw that picture of a person holding a guitar, and I thought, that is like the crown on Jesus's head. It was so symbolic to me. Yeah. And just the guitar itself, a guitar is a religious symbolic thing for me, and I wanted to learn how to play it loud, and I did. I did that movie To Sir With Love, and I came out of that. The Mindbenders were in that movie. Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders. So that was the first band that I ever had, talked with. And then you're going to go to Leeds, you're going to go to Yorkshire and play, and the stupidest questions, but I could see, okay, so that's for me. And then what happened was I came out of there, and I did this nude musical in London called A Dirty Show in Town, and Andy Lloyd Webber came to that, and I was singing in it. And afterwards, he came backstage and he says, a remarkable singer, his marvelous voice. He's very upper class. And he said, I'd like, if I may, to try and get you a record deal. Wow. And I said, oh, wow, yeah, good. And so he goes to, because Ian Gillan was doing demos too. Wow. And Ian was, of course, Deep Purple. But what a singer he is, was.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Great. And they signed me, and we put a thing in the NME, saying wanted, extremely thin guitar players.
Right.
If you're over 120 pounds, you're out. Don't bother coming. Because I knew that the image of it was just as important as, the songs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you're talking about that image of Elvis. That's what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Elvis would, really, I think... Well, he's my favorite artist. Him and Valentino are the two most important people, I think, in the world, in terms of beauty, male beauty and talent. It was funny because we were just in the Musso and Frank's, which is a very, wonderful restaurant, and we got, I've known them for years, and they put me in the Valentino booth. I swear to God, Rudolph Valentino and Charlie Chaplin
Unreal.
Would have breakfast in this particular booth. That's my booth. If anybody's in there, get the fuck out of my table. I'm a Valentino fan, and they look at you like you're completely insane, which I probably. And what happened was with them, they'd have their breakfast, and they'd look out the window, and out the window is two horses. We're talking about a long time ago.
Yeah.
They get on the two horses, and they go to the studio and film their movies. Can you think of anything more romantic than that?
That's amazing.
The blah, 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 Silverhead, great, loved it, met Miss Pamela. I've been married to somebody else who I adore, Wendy. She's gone now, brilliant woman. And the beat went on, man.
The guitar, I would love if you could to show us a guitar, tell us a story about it.
Oh, me? Have a guitar? Good Lord. You mean something like that, right?
Just like that.
Who would have thought that Murdoch would be a guitar player?
Exactly.
It's pretty weird, isn't it? The shape of it alone is symbolic,
Yeah.
To me. I play this. I have a few Les Pauls, but this is the one I like because I'm always in black. So,
So cool.
And I also play black.
When you pick out a guitar like that, is it literally the color, or do you have like, is there some kind of like deeper story or meaning behind that guitar, or is it the aesthetic and the vibe?
You know, I decided to wear black because I was so bored with choosing clothes, you know, in many ways. I mean, I know that sounds like I sound like a, you know, model or something, you know, but it's black has always meant it. Like you, look at you, you're both in black. I mean, it just works.
We couldn't help it. We knew we were talking to you.
But, you know, it's just the shape of the thing. Of the guitar. But if you hear the tone that I've got on that, right? Didn't that tone sound rock and roll?
Raw, yeah.
There are so many people that play guitar that don't have the bite of what makes it really work and stand out. Even the great guitarists, you know, I just love playing chords and a little lick here and there. I'm not crazy about playing like millions of notes and stuff. I don't like it. I just like the simplistic rhythm of it, you know. And
the pure emotion of it. That's what.
You got to feel it. Otherwise, it becomes technique. Rock and roll isn't technical, you know. It's physical. It's heart beats below your waist, you know. And I believe that that's true, you know. And so when I'm playing for you, I mean, I go into another place.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm just enjoying it. I mean, I could be listening to it myself. It's like I don't even feel like I'm playing it. But that's very different because there's so many great guitar players. But what is a great guitar player? People tighten themselves up and they want to do their best. And I say, do your worst.
That's right.
It's not a competition. It's a feeling. It's like when you fall in love. You know, when you do fall in love with somebody, it's a physical thing. It's not an intellectual choice. It's you know, and I believe in the physical way more than I believe in the intellectual. You know, I for instance, if you see a dog running across the road and the cars are zooming in, do you think about going to get that dog, or do you just go automatically to save that dog's life? You know, and I don't think about it. Should I? Could I? What am I? What is it? You know, you're either going to be there for somebody or you're not.
Yeah, that feeling definitely comes through. I mean, on the tracks that we've heard on the new record, it's definitely coming through. Like we hear it in your voice, we hear it in the music, the looseness, the coolness, the below the hip vibe. I mean, that is really the essence of what we're hearing. October 11th is the date. The singles are out, but October 11th. Where do people find you?
Well, it's on Spotify, you know, and it's all streaming. I mean, this you know, Mark Mercuriadis?
Yeah, of course. Hypnosis.
He's been very, very kind to me. You know, he was a fan of mine when he was 12, you know.
Wow.
Now he's this extraordinary man in the music business, buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of, you know, Neil Young
catalogs, yeah.
Right. So, but I thought, you know what? I mean, I'm on Stevie's label, you know, and I do stuff for Stevie, but I hadn't in ages. And I thought, well, I'm going to call Merc, you know. And he got me a record deal with this incredible Rock Ridge Music, who are just wonderful, and streaming it. You know, I'm not asking for anything grand and a double album and photos of me in the past and me in the future. You know, I just want to do these songs, and it hit him. It hit him, bam. He understood exactly what I was trying to do. And it goes beyond how clever I am. You know, how great these songs are that I've written. I didn't write them. I'm a fan.
Right.
And so is he. And I wanted to call it, you know, my, you know, not my fan club or something. You know, just so people didn't feel that I was being, again, egoic about this thing. And he said, sure. And he put it together. And I got the best guitarist I could get, Eric Scarmahorn from Iggy's band, you know, because I knew I could get that power from him, you know.
So it's the same band on all the tracks?
Same band, you know, Paul Ill on bass and David Goodstein on drums. And those two are Linda Perry's rhythm section from Courtney Love to whatever. I mean, so many records they've made. But they believe in those songs. It's those songs that they adore, you know.
They're undeniable. Those songs are undeniable. And the performance that you're putting out is undeniable. So.
Well, thank you. But it's like, wow, you know, it's so great to listen to them. I love it, you know. I'd never listen to my records. I'd make a record, I'd run away from a record.
So October 11th is the date, streaming everywhere?
Yes.
And people can find you where?
In Pasadena.
Or through the internet if they want to look you up and get more information and follow you in social media.
Social media, I'm all over social media, all of it, anywhere. Get hold of me. I love it. I love to respond to it. I mean, after every show, I say, listen, get hold of me, ask me, and they ask me questions. Should I do this and should I do that? And what?
Are you going to tour around the album?
I really want to, but you guys will understand what I'm going to say. Those songs I adore, but to really adore them, I think you've got to know how they were written, why they were written, what the time was like in that time. And I can bring in my own life into that, with that as a soundtrack to my life. So therefore I will talk and I will answer questions, more importantly, because I think people really want to know about decades of music, particular moments, and that they're interested in. And there's nothing more interesting than those early 70s.
Very cool.
The mid 60s on. I'm going to do the 60s next.
Great.
Nice.
Great.
And with the same band and the same guy.
We can't wait. We'll have you back on.
Oh, God bless you. I love that. Because clearly you guys know what you're talking about, which is very rare. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so to talk about it, that's what I would tour with. I'll do the songs and then I'll answer questions in between the songs and then I'll play the song.
You have a unique way of presenting it. I mean, that's a very interesting take on it. And of course, telling the stories, you're a great storyteller. So I think that would really translate well.
I think it'd be nice. I think it'd be an evening that is different from just coming out and singing your hits. Yeah.
Michael, your message of love is heard and felt by all of us. So we want to thank you for that. And we want to thank you for spending some time with us.
My pleasure.
Telling us all these incredible stories.
Well, my pleasure. Both of you. It's delightful to be with you, and you've made my weekend, and I hope to see you again soon in one way or another.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Peace.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Check us out on all the socials at Chief Guitar Officer.
And we want you on the show. Go to chiefguitarofficer.com, look for the section called You're a CGO, send us your video, and be featured on a future episode. Just like this.
Hey, my name is Steph Judd. I'm a guitar player, songwriter and producer from the east coast of the UK. This is my Gibson Les Paul Standard from 2004, and I am a CGO.